instead of going up, we go straight along this ridge line here and end up over the other side over there. The stairs of death start over there.
So back in December, I got to travel to Australia to visit my wife. Up until that point, I haven't seen her for almost a year because she was studying for her master's. My first flight was from Toronto out to Vancouver International. From there, I was going to take a Trans-Pacific flight from Vancouver to Brisbane. Throughout the airport, you could find works of art from Native Americans, including one that was above an aquarium at the far end of the terminal before getting to the actual gates. And soon, after a short layover of about an hour, I was back up in the air and heading off to Brisbane to see the wife. Total, 22 hours in flight, including a short layover. Not too terrible. I've had worse. After landing, it was a short day of rest, and the next day we were flying out to Sydney. Neither of us have explored Australia before, so this was a good chance for us to have adventures together. The first leg of our adventure was west of Sydney to the Blue Mountains. Our first stop was the New South Wales National Park, where our guide worked at a rehab and helped to release wallabies into that area. After a short walk, we headed on to our next spot, to Lexin's Rock Lookout. From here, we could see the entire ranges of the Blue Mountains falling away below us, and it was just amazing to see. A short drive later, we ended up at Wentworth Falls. We followed the hiking trail around over top of the waterfall and headed down some stairs that eventually took us to the base.
Back to this lookout, and then instead of going up, we go straight along this ridge line here and end up over the other side over there. The stairs of death start over there.
The hiking trail itself was really interesting. It's carved into the cliff face, legitimately. All that you have for protection from the other side is a fence, and then a cable that's actually mounted into the cliff, so you have something to hold on to as you're climbing up or down. There was a little pool at the bottom where we could actually swim in. And some of us did, some of us waited, some of us just stayed on the dry spots. The hike out was a lot more difficult. We were a little bit tired, but we knew that there was going to be a lunch at the end of it once we got out. After our lunch, we got back onto the bus, and we were on our way to Katoomba, another town close by. In Katoomba, we got the opportunity to see the Three Sisters. These are stone pillars balancing on the cliffside. With me walking around and recording video everywhere, I think that my wife got a little bit of inspiration and decided to take some behind-the-scenes shots of me. We headed back to the national park for the opportunity to go swimming in some Australian waters. We ended up at a jelly bean pool, which was great. It was a nice, cool, refreshing dip to end the day. Our next day involved lots of walking, starting from the famous Bondi Beach. We followed the coastal trail and got to see the bays and the beaches, admiring the rock formations, and even catching selfies where we could, especially when others around us would help us get some of the nicer photos of us. From Bondi and the coastal trail, we headed back to Sydney, and we ended up walking along the harbour front. There, we ended up passing by the Opera House. And unfortunately, we couldn't really get in because they were setting up for some concerts that were outside. In the meantime, we ended up wandering into the Botanical Gardens. Of course, my wife loves succulents, so we ended up in that section for the majority of the time, checking them out, checking out the cactuses, and realizing that aloe vera plants actually grow up to be pretty massive trees. Shortly, we caught one of the ferries out to Manly, which is across the harbour. We dined close to the wharf, and after getting nice and full, we walked it off and went swimming at the beach. The waters were absolutely refreshing for such a gorgeous day.
With the Merry Christmas.
Yeah. We caught one of the last ferries back, just in time for the sunset. It was totally on my bucket list to be able to capture what the skyline looks like in Sydney with the sun behind it. After 3 amazing nights in Sydney, it was time to keep going and on to the next leg of our journey. I was completely hyped up for what was going to be happening next, and unfortunately, you guys are going to have to wait until the next video. And guarantee it's not going to be as long as this.